So I will be sending the link for your attendance here sa ating chatbox sa ating um, dito na lang sa Gmeet link na meron kayo, and I will also alright, so good afternoon everyone. Sa mga wait lang, i-share ko muna pala yung link sa ating mga classmates. One each and alright. Chasing. Good afternoon, everyone. So while waiting with the other students to be on our live, once again, good afternoon. So for today's lesson, we're going to talk about the lesson 2.3 entitled Response to Emergency Situations, headed by Miss Rase with her group, Miss Loremas, Bernardo, Robles, and Villamor. Am I right? Are they all present here?
Sir, si Villamor po, hindi po siya makakapag-report po since nasa work daw po siya. Pero nag-send naman po siya ng voice recording po.
Okay, sige. So, yung mga questions ko as regards his report, kayo na lang ang sasagot. Ganun ba yan?
Apo, sir.
Oh, syempre, wala kayong choice eh. Okay, so we have guests here. Sino-sino yung mga guests natin, Miss Ras?
Si Pareha po, Miss Pareha. Miss Morco po.
Morco.
And Miss Musa din po.
And Miss Musa. Alright. Okay. So before we start, I will be sending the link for your attendance, guys. So I will be posting the link sa ating top chat, sa ating live, and itipin ko siya. Good afternoon, Miss Barbarona, Laut, Basilio, I can see Brillantes, Sarno, Colina, Mabini, Benitez, and Salimbao. Good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. Ayaw, sir, sorry. Teka lang, wait, one moment. Alright, sige. Paki-refresh lang po ulit. Good afternoon, Mr. Kandare. Okay na po. Yung link po, paki-click lang po ulit. Okay na po siya. Pwede na po kayong fill out ng inyong attendance. Okay, so I will be giving 2 minutes since maikli lang naman yan. Just please lang po wag nyo nang pagbaliktarin yung last name at saka yung first name ninyo, ha? Alright, so please fill out po the attendance with your corresponding email address or registered email address. Okay. Sound trip muna tayo. Akala mo naman talaga maganda yung sound trip natin. Background music lang tayo. Alright, say comment present, guys, if you are done accomplishing the attendance form. I can see 28 respondents already. All right, so without further ado, please welcome the Group 2.3 to discuss response to emergency situations headed by Miss Rase. Miss Rase, please take it away.
So, good afternoon po everyone. We are group 2.3 and we are about to discuss module 3, response to emergency situations. Next slide po. So, here are the learning outcomes for today's discussion po. First is recognize and evaluate emergency situations. Second is act appropriately to emergency situations. Third is follow emergency situations. Fourth is ask help in emergency situations from pertinent authority personnel. And last is record actions undertaken in response to emergency situation. Next slide po. So now let's move on to what I know, and I will let my guest po to answer these 3 questions po. So first question po, anyone po wants to answer?
Ako po. Pwede.
Okay po, sige po.
The presence of deranged person can be considered as an emergency situation in a group tour. So, ang sagot ko po is true. Kasi po, may possible or possibilities na makasakit sila ng ibang tao dahil sa kalagayan nila. Halimbawa po, yung hindi nila alam kung tama ba or mali yung ginagawa nila. And kailangan po natin sila na pakalmahin kapag po hindi kaya pakalmahin ng isang tao or pwede na po siyang bigyan ng gamot na pampakalma para hindi makasakit pa ng iba. Yung example po is sa mga person with disabilities po. Thank you po. Yun lang po.
That is correct po and thank you po. And tama po yung answer ni Miss Pareha because when we say deranged person po, it is mad or insane. Pwede po silang mag-cause ng threat or risk kapag example na lang po, kagaya po ng example niya kanina, kapag hindi na po mapigilan or makontrol sila, pwede po sila mag-cause ng risk or threat po. And number 2 po, kindly read and answer po. Anyone po wants to answer number 2? Okay po.
It is not recommended for emergency ambulance call takers to give medical advice over the telephone to assist the patient needs until the ambulance arrives. Ang sagot ko po is false. False po kasi usually naman po 'di ba kapag tumatawag tayo sa 911, nagbibigay naman sila ng alternative ways or yung mga maaaring gawin na makakapagpakalma sa pasyente para maligtas yung buhay nila habang wala pa yung ambulance. That's all po. Thank you.
That is correct po. Thank you po. And last po, number 3. Anyone po wants to answer?
Ako po. MIP.
Okay po. Sige po.
Where there has been a need to respond to an emergency situation, it is a standard practice to complete nominated documentation to record the event and the action taken. Ang sagot ko po, true. Kasi po, because po, when we say emergency po, there is always an urgent matter or situation that we need to respond immediately po. Thank you po.
That is correct po. Thank you po. Next slide po. Words to remember, compounding factors to safety are anything which could multiply the danger and make the existing situation potentially worse. So when we say compounding factors daw po, ito po yung mga bagay na maaaring magparami po ng panganib or risk and nagpapalala po siya ng kasalukuyang situation po. Next po is potable, a water source fit for human consumptions. So familiar naman po tayo dito. Ito po yung mga tubig na naiinom po or kayang i-intake or hindi po nakakasama sa kalusugan or katawan ng tao. Safe po siyang inumin. Next slide po. So now let's move on to the discussion po. identification and assessment of emergency situation. Quick responses to emergency situations are essential in every instance. Employees and customers will expect tour guides and tour leaders to know what to do when an emergency arises and to take appropriate and effective action to protect them and their assets or property. So in an emergency situation po, kailangan po talaga natin ng immediate response po para po ma-avoid natin yung mga severe injuries. Sabi din po sa statement kanina, employers and customers will expect tour guides and tour leaders to be knowledgeable when it comes to emergency situation po. Maybe because they are trained po. Based on my research din po, sabi po dito, a first aid course is an integral part of tour guide's training. The tour guide is responsible for the safety of the group. And yung mga tour guides po, kapag magsasagawa po sila ng tour, inaaral po muna nila yung location or yung place po na paggagawa ng tour para po masiguro na din po yung safety nung mga students po, example na lang po sa mga educational tour po. Next slide po. Examples of emergency situations that are readily identifiable. First na po dyan is bomb threats. It is usually verbal or written to detonate an explosive or incendiary device. Next po is terrorist threats. It is a threat to commit a crime of violence or a threat to cause bodily injury to other person and terrorization as the result of the prescribed conduct. Next po is terrorist activities. Next po is unstable or disturbed people. A disturbed person is a very upset emotionally and often needs a special care or treatment. So basically po, yung mga gantong tao, pwede po sila mag-cause ng threat po, lalo na kapag hindi na po sila makontrol. Kagaya na lang po yung kanina po sa example po, yung deranged person po. Breakdown of motor vehicle. Dito naman po, ito po yung mga nasisiraan ng sasakyan. And for me po, yung pinaka-worst na po na pwede mangyari dito is yung pag nawalan po ng brake yung sasakyan, example po. Kasi po, pwede po siyang mag-cause ng heavy ng threat po. Pwede po siyang makadamay ng iba pang sasakyan kapag po nawalan po ng preno. Next po is unlawful and criminal acts such as assault, theft, or robbery. Next po is natural disasters and calamity. Ito po yung mga example na po dito yung bagyo, earthquake, and tsunami po, volcanic eruption. Ito po yung mga bagay na hindi po natin kayang pigilan po. Next po is personal injury and sickness. And lack of basic necessities such as water, food, and etc. Transport and communications po. And last po is fire. Next slide po. Assessing a situation is undertaken in order to determine the course of action and response to take or implement. The assessment should take into account. First po dyan is the circumstances applying at that time. For example, ito po yung mga pangyayari na naganap sa oras na yon. First po dyan is type or nature of emergency. Dito po malalaman kung anong uri or saan po nagmula yung emergency po na yon. Next po is immediacy of risk or threat. Dito naman po kung gaano po kabilis nag-occur yung isang emergency po. Next is number of people at risk and their capacity to act or respond. So dito naman po, kung gaano po karami yung tao na involved sa risk po or yung panganib at kung ano po yung kakayahan po nila mag-respond. Example ko po dito is may naganap pong earthquake. 'Di ba po kapag may earthquake po, uunahin po natin muna yung safety ng sarili natin. And if kaya po nating tumulong, uunahin po natin tulungan yung mga elderly po, yung PWDs po or yung mga bata po. In my opinion lang naman po yan. Next slide po.
Okay, sige, medyo ano lang, sorry. When it comes to emergency situations, para lang din yan sa ano, when it comes to um, sa mga aircraft, sa sa mga airline, no? Once na magkaroon ng emergency, okay, or for example, magkaroon ng depressurization ang aircraft na mawalan ng oxygen yung loob ng aircraft, automatic may magbabagsak na ano yung tawag doon, yung parang nozzle na merong oxygen. Okay? So before ka tumulong sa ibang passenger na nahihirapan kumuha ng oxygen, you have to get your oxygen first, no? Kasi parang inhaler. Okay, oxygen 'yon. Okay, so may magda-drop 'yon. Tapos the standard is you put your oxygen first before giving assistance to other. Okay, kasi ikaw yung tutulong tapos ikaw mismo walang oxygen, di ba? So, ganun sa mga emergency situations, no? No, make sure that you are safe first. Hindi naman sa pagiging unahin mo munang iligtas yung sarili mo. No, but before you can help, you assess yourself if you are capable of helping others. All right? So, when it comes to elderly or kung sino ba uunahin, kung elderly ba o yung children ba or yung mga PWDs ba, well, it depends kasi kung sino yung mas accessible sa iyo and then sino yung mas sa tingin mo nangangailangan ng tulong. Okay? For your help. All right? Clear po tayo doon?
Yes po.
All right. Please proceed. Thank you.
So next po is physical or geographical location of risk or threat and the direction it is moving and speed of it is moving. So, ang example ko po dito is yung mga bagyo po, sir. Di ba po kasi kapag may bagyo, nalalaman po natin kung saan po location tatama and kung gaano po kabilis po yung
pagdating?
Opo, pagdating po ng bagyo. Yun po.
Alright.
Next po, presence of compounding factors such as anything which could multiply the danger and make the existing situation potentially worse. So as we can see po, present na po dito yung compounding factors po na na-discuss po kanina. Example ko po dito is sa isang restaurant po halimbawa, meron po nag-aaway na customers. And imbis na awatin po yung dalawang customer na nag-aaway, i-chineer pa po nila para po lalong mag-away. So makikita po natin, lalo lang pong lumala yung sitwasyon and may possibilities po na magkasakitan po sila ng physical po. Next po, action already being taken to respond and address the emergency together with how successful the response appears to be. Ito naman po yung pagsasagawa po natin ng action upang tumugon sa mga iba pang emergency kasama kung gaano katagumpay ang pagtugon nito. Next slide po. Resources available to assist such as first is physical resources immediately available to respond. Dito po, I think yung mga tao po to na nasa scene of emergency, na sila po yung maaaring tumulong or mag-respond po dun sa naturang emergency. Next po is local authorities with professional expertise. Dito po, example ko po dito, halimbawa po sa isang flight po and may passenger po na manganganak. And since wala pong flight attendant na marunong po magpaanak, sa flight na yon, pwede po sila magtanong sa mga passenger kung meron po bang midwife or doctor po doon na pwede pong makatulong magpaanak doon sa passenger na yun po. In my opinion lang naman po yun.
Yeah, that's correct. So, well, sa ganong scenario, meron silang tinatawag na manifest. What is manifest? Alam niyo yung manifest? Have you heard of manifest? Anyone? Sa ating mga viewers, what is manifest? Predicting po. Sa reporters, what is manifest? Anyone? Wala? Just say, we don't know if you don't know. Or wala kayong idea. Or, sige, try to Google it. What is manifest? Someone knowing that something is true po. List. Okay, relationship or experience. Okay, actually, it's a list of the passengers. List of guests. Okay, that is manifest. Okay? So, sa example ni Miss Rase kanina is that nasaan na yung ito pala. Sorry, hindi ko nakita yung comment. Parang nagpatuloy, wala po idea. Okay. So it's a list of the passengers that the plane is carrying. So that is manifest. Okay, ganoon din sa mga barko, 'di ba? May manifest na tinatawag na lahat ng guests mo ay nakalista doon. Okay. And sometimes sa manifest may hindi nakalagay doon, okay, if you are a doctor, engineer, parang captain din ng isang eroplano, okay, so somehow meron siyang some sort of information na nakalagay kung in a specific Carlo, in a specific situation that might help that person to do something to that situation. Okay? So for example, si Dr. Kyla Rase. So tatanungin nila, meron tayong passenger na doctor dito. Tanungin natin kung specialty niya ang panganganak. Okay? Or so for example, nagkaroon ng emergency, for example, inatake yung captain. Okay? You have to check to the manifest kung sino ba yung capable of being or doing the co-piloting of the aircraft, parang gano'n. So titingnan nila yung sa listahan, and then they will see in which seat that person is located. So madali na lang pupuntahan. Si Mr. ganito nasa E25 seat siya. Pupuntahan ni flight attendant to ask for a help for whichever situation is that. Okay? Please proceed.
Next po, type and number of first responders. Dito po siguro yung kung gaano po kadami and kung sino-sino po yung nag-respond po doon sa emergency na yon, kung sino po yung nagbigay ng first aid po like that. Next slide po. Experience with the area and or emergency type. Training undertaken to provide experience with responding to the emergency being encountered. Dito naman po dito po bali nagtanong-tanong po ako sa sa employees po dito sa amin. Ang sabi po nila, safety officer and nurse daw po yung magka-tandem when it comes to dito po. Since trained po sila and professionalize daw po nila yung ganitong situation po.
Yeah, that's correct.
Next po, previous experience with the similar emergency under similar conditions. Dito naman po, bali alam mo na po yung ire-respond mo since na-experience mo na po yung ganitong klase ng emergency. Next po. Next slide po. Knowledge of the emergency action, management plan available to deal with the emergency type which has materialized, such as first is knowledge of evacuation routes. So basically all the new employees po of a company, itinutur po sila sa loob ng company para malaman po nila or malaman nga po nila yung mga emergency site po like evacuation area, fire exit, and pansin ko din po sa mga mall po ganun, meron po sila nung plan kung yun lang po yung napansin ko, may plan po sila doon kung saan po yung emergency exit, evacuation area, like that po.
Okay, well actually that is one of the requirements of the Bureau of Fire and Protection, no? Aside from the fire extinguishers, fire water sprinkler, no? Kailangan meron kayong evacuation plan or exit plan when it comes or when emergency happens. For example, magkaroon ng earthquake na mga tipong magnitude 9 point something, 9.7 or higher, no? So the protocol is that kung ganun kalakas, syempre yung what do you call that? Yung dock cover something, ipupunta ka sa ilalim ng stable na upuan, table or something na stable siya na pwede mong pagtaguan. Okay? So that's for earthquake. Now for fire naman, yan, yung fire exit, kailangan accessible siya and may mga drawing or may mga signages na meron sa mga key areas na kung saan ka nandoon at kung paano ka makakalabas ng building. Okay?
Next po, knowledge about emergency response equipment. Example na lang po dito, yung kagaya po ng sinabi nyo kanina, yung sa fire extinguisher po. Idine-demo po yon kung paano po gamitin sa mga employees. And based on my experience din po, sa school din po, dinemo din po kung paano po siya gamitin.
Correct.
Next po is ability to implement standard procedures. Kagaya po kanina, nagtanong din po ako sa employee, yearly daw po sila i-mini-meeting po para po ma-implement tong standard procedure na to. Next is capacity of customers to comply. Dito po yung kapasidad po ng customer na mag-comply and sabi din po, wala daw pong limit yung customer. Wala din pong limit yung halimbawa po sa isang company, wala pong minimum or maximum na customer sila na Ah, ano po, wala po silang limit ng customer, yun po. And last po is extent to which the plan correlates to the fact of the emergency as they are presenting themselves. Ito naman po, ito po yung lawak kung saan ang plano ay nag-uugnay sa mga katotohanan ng emergency habang sila ay nagpupunta sa kanilang sarili. Hindi ko po masyado dito, sir. Hindi ko po siya masyadong nag-gets.
Which one? The
Yung last po,
extent to which the
Opo.
plan correlates to the facts of the emergency as they are presenting themselves. Okay, for example nito is kailangan kasi yung mga emergency response natin is akma doon sa mga emergency, kumbaga we should know all the procedures, the implementation of the emergency response to that specific emergency, no? For example, 'di ba kaya nga tayo nagkakaroon ng different emergency response when it comes to fire, when it comes to earthquake, iba-iba 'yon. Okay, hindi naman isang beses lang 'yun ginagawa na okay, may earthquake drill tayo, may fire drill tayo, no? So, kailangan yung mga emergency response natin is correlates to the situation. Hindi pwede yung na maggagawa ka ng isang emergency response that somehow na hindi naman related to that kind of emergency. Okay, so the extent of the of your plans should be related, no, or correlates dun sa mga emergency procedures na nangyayari sa isang emergency or situation. Yan lang siya.
Thank you po. Next slide po. In general, assessing an emergency situation must involve, first is giving the situation immediate attention. So, syempre po, kapag po may emergency, needed po talaga ng immediate attention and action po. It is to avoid severe injuries po. Second is determining potential impact of the event. Dito po natin aalamin kung ano po yung naging epekto nung nangyaring emergency na yon. Third is determining extent of the emergency situation. Dito naman po i-identify yung lawak or saklaw po nung naganap na emergency na yon. And last po is sourcing relevant and up-to-date information about the emergency. Syempre po kapag may nangyari pong emergency, dapat po alam natin lahat ng details like saan po nangyari, kailan nangyari, and paano nangyari yung emergency na yon. So that's all po for my report. Next reporter po is Mr. Albert Villamor, pero wala po siya sa meeting ngayon. May work daw po siya. Kaya nag-send na lang po siya ng voice recording po. Thank you po.
Sir, isi-share ko po muna yung i-exit ko po muna yung full screen.
Okay, no problem.
Good afternoon, 1HM1, and good afternoon, sir. Let's proceed to letter B, actions to take in response to emergency situations. Determining actions to take in response to emergency situations refers to working out what to do in order to secure the safety of tour group members. Action to take after emergencies have been assessed may include the following. First is contacting emergency service sa pamamagitan ng phone, radio, or other means to advise and summon assistance, which is a critical primary requirement element of a effective response to emergency situations, is to notify authorities and others, alert them to the situation, and initiate a response moving to the location. Next, initiating alarms or directing others to do so. Ito yung pag-alarma sa ibang tao tungkol sa mga emergency na nangyayari sa kanilang paligid. Next, communicating with tour group members. Advise them regarding sa uri ng emergency or type of threat intended sa action to be taken in response in order to protect their safety and compliance with instructions or directions given. Next, taking immediate protective measures to ensure that no one is placed in danger. Kailangang siguraduhin na walang sino man ang malalagay sa panganib at kailangang i-prioritize yung safety ng isang tao kaysa sa safety of the property or the assets. Next, initiating evacuations by identifying routes to take. Ito yung pagbibigay ng directions or instructions o yung pagsasagawa ng mga actions na kailangan. Next, undertaking first response or first attack activities. Yung pagsasagawa ng mga unang hakbang such as yung mga initial firefighting or suppression o yung pagbibigay ng first response or first aid. Next, removing assets, property, and belongings out of danger. So, pag-aalis ng mga assets and property para hindi na madamay sa panganib. Next, seeking feedback from customers o yung paghahanap ng mga puna sa iba. Next, following the actions as set out in appropriate prepared emergency management plans o yung mga pagsunod sa mga nararapat na mga emergency plans. Next, let's proceed to letter C, emergency response procedures. Standard.
Sorry to interrupt po. I-check ko lang po kung okay po yung voice message, narinig po ba na maayos?
Medyo nag-feedback lang or nag-repeat lang pero medyo clear naman siya. Medyo yun nga lang. Siguro lower i-volume out mo muna yung sa Meet mo, sa Google Meet, tapos i-max out mo yung voice message or video recording ni William mo. Ayan na, nag-feedback siya.
Wait po, sir.
Yung hulog daw, si Tanong. Ay, book mo nito. Ano?
The operating procedures for responding to emergency situations
Uwi din ako.
on tour will require following established emergency response procedures. Some possible emergency management plan or EMP contents are as follows. First, bomb threat. When receiving a bomb threat over the telephone, the call must be handled in a calm and concise manner, ensuring a lot of open questions are asked. So, kapag nakatanggap ng isang bomb threat sa isang telepono, kailangan kalmado at hindi ka magpapanik dahil mas lalong lalala ang isang emergency kung ikaw ay magpapanik. Dahil maaari itong makaapekto sa ibang tao at mag-cause ng stampede. So here's the question should include. Who are you? What does the bomb look like? When is the bomb due to explode? Why did you plant the bomb? And how can we defuse it? So, karamihan sa mga taong gumagawa ng bomb threats ay hindi nagtatagal sa telepono ng mahabang oras. Kaya importante na makakuha ng sapat o maraming information as possible. After hanging up, speak with other staff about the threat. This should be done in a quiet place away from others, and the details related in a calm and clear manner to avoid panic among customers and members of the public. Evacuation procedures should be implemented immediately. So yung mga evacuation procedures kailangan agarang maipatupad o maipamahagi. Next, number 2, disturbed and unstable person. When faced with a deranged person, the options available include dealing with the situation personally. In the first instance, such as asking the person to modify their behavior or to leave the area. Next, contacting a supervisor. So, letting them determine the appropriate course of action o yung mga hakbang na dapat gawin. Next, contacting in-house security staff and asking them to deal with the situation. O yung pag-contact sa mga security para sila yung makipag-humarap sa sitwasyon. Next, contacting police and asking for their attendance. So, yun nga yung pag-contact sa mga police upang manghingi ng kanilang attendance at tulong. Next, removing tour group members from the area. Para maprotektahan na din yung kanilang safety. Next, restricting access to the area by others and protecting property damage. Next, number 3,
Report. Sa akin na po yung report na next po. Last na po niya.
I asked someone to to join the Gmeet because I have a few questions with regard to this topic that Mr. Villamore has discussed. So sa kanya is actions to take in response to emergency situations. Tama. Hanggang sa emergency response procedures. Tama? Yeah. So, wait lang. Ang tagal ang tagal pumasok nitong nung in-invite ko.
Ay, sir, excuse me po.
Yes po.
Hindi ko po siya ma-PM, hindi ko po kasi alam
Hindi,
hindi ko po ma-send yung Gmeet.
Actually, sinend ko na sa kanya. Hindi
Ay,
niya
yung
lang,
link po.
sinend
Okay
ko
po,
na sa
sir.
kanya yung link. Hindi niya palang sinisin yung message ko.
Okay po, sir.
Ah,
Thank you po.
Calling the attention of Mr. Colina. Gusto ko lang siya yung mismo mag-discuss ng question ko or magsumagot ng question ko. I just hope nandito pa rin siya. Yes, sir. Nag-PM ako sa'yo, Mr. Colina. Huwag mo akong deadmahin. Pansinin mo yung message ko. Okay, hintay lang natin siya sumali sa Gmeet. Yun, nasin niya na yung message ko. Pa-accept na lang, Miss Rase.
Okay po, sir.
Tagal Mr. Colina. Ayan. Ayan na siya. Mr. Colina.
Sir, hello po.
Hello. Okay, so as regards to our topic, ano yung topic natin, Mr. Colina?
Sir?
Ano yung topic natin?
Hindi ko lang po sir tanda yung title pero it's about parang hindi ko sa matandaan sir yung title eh. Pero about sa securities pa rin po siya.
Okay, so response to emergency situations.
Yes po.
Okay. I believe you are working as a security, right?
Yes sir.
Okay, so when it comes to security and dealing with some sort of emergencies, so ano usually ang standard operating procedure ng isang security?
Anong klaseng po sir? Scenario sir? Give some
Okay, so
scenarios sir.
let's say dito sa for example bomb threat.
Okay, bomb threat. For example sir, sa bomb threat po which is for example sa isang building or sa isang establishment.
Mhm.
So the first thing to do po na gagawin po namin is yung maiwasan po muna na malaman po agad ng maraming tao. Kasi
Okay.
once po na malaman po ng maraming tao agad yan, ang magiging resulta po agad niyan is panic.
Panic, alright.
Which is yung pinakadelikado po.
So the reason why I invited Mr. Colina here is that I saw nakita ko lang na naka-uniform siya ng security, no? Kaya naisip
Yes,
ko
sir.
na i-invite siya. So, let's take sabihin natin na exact or an accurate, or should I say actual experience or actual procedures when it comes to this kind of emergency procedures. Ano yung mga
Yes.
nagiging response nila? Okay, so Mr. Colina, please proceed. So
So the
first
next,
is
yung ano
i-contain
po.
na hindi malaman ng public muna.
Apo, yes po. Yes po.
Okay. All right. Next.
So so ang gagawin po namin sunod, sir, is we're going to ask for our ups, sir, yung mas matataas po sa amin. Sabihin po
Superiors
namin
ninyo.
superiors po namin. So tatanong po namin yung dapat po namin gawin kasi unang-una po, ang kailangan lang po namin gawin is to secure. Wala po kami karapatan na decision agad, sir. So yun po.
Mag-detonate
Yes po.
mag-detonate ng bomb. Okay? So
Yes, sir.
since security ang work, are you still working?
Ngayon, sir, stop po muna ako kasi
Nag-stop
I need
ka
to
na.
study po muna po.
All right. Very good. Okay, sige. Next.
Then the next one naman po, sir, is yung unti-untiin po namin sa ipaalam sa mga tao po sa loob, which is para po mas what bang word yun? Para mas maiwasan po namin yung panic para paunti-unti po labas ng tao. Kung halimbawa, first example, sir, sa first floor po muna yung sasabihan namin, then we're going to say na wag po kayo magpanic. May sasabihin lang po kami sa inyo, pero wag po sana kayong maingay muna.
May bomba
Ganun po,
kami,
sir.
ganun.
Siyempre, sir, hindi po ganun.
Hindi yan. Okay, parang sabihin nyo, parang to make them calm, parang
Sa mahinahon na sir, sa mahinahon na
sasabihin
pakikiusap.
natin sa mga, for example, sa mall, sa first floor, okay, please evacuate the building, blah blah blah, ganyan.
Yes, sir.
Pero hindi
Yes,
mo
po.
dapat sabihin, or hindi dapat natin sa kanilang sabihin na kung ano yung situation talaga, just to make them secure, no, and for their safety, we will request them to evacuate the building. Okay,
Yes, sir.
when it comes to bomb threats. And then, tapos,
Then yun na po, sir. Syempre po, hindi naman po natin iiwan yung sarili po natin sa loob po, di ba? Then we're going to make sure na wala na pong naiwan na civilian sa loob. Then hayaan na po natin gumalaw yung mga nakatoka po na
okay, yung authority.
tao. Yung authorities po.
Yan. Alright, sige. So, do you want to stay muna, Mr. Colina?
Okay, sir, no problem po. No
Okay,
problem, sir.
sige. Miss Rase, okay lang ba na in-invite ko si Mr. Colina dito? Wala, nandito na siya eh. Okay, sige, please.
Actually, sir, kakatapos ko na magluto eh.
Sige. Anong ulam natin? Hindi, sige, next topic tayo to be discussed by Loremas.
Yes po.
Okay, sige. Ang tawag nito, yan, alright. Alright, so let's proceed.
Good afternoon po. I'm Zinelin J. Loremas. So this is the continuation of the actions to take in response to emergency situations. Roman numeral number 3, robberies or armed holdups. So these practices po, these industry standard practices po, are established by the authorities as a rule or as an example po of what to do whenever we encounter this kind of incident. So first, obey offenders. So if ever na magbigay ng instructions yung mga robbers or yung mga offenders ka, so kailangan natin sundin agad. And instruct others to do likewise. So lahat dapat tayo susunod.
Tama ba yun, Mr. Colina? Sa ganung situation sa mga robberies or armed hold-ups, is it right to obey the offenders right away?
Sir, sa nakita ko po dito, give them what they are. No, sa tingin ko po, sir, ang pinakatama lang po dito is speak only do not try to stall robbers. Wag ka po basta-basta mag-initiate doon sa robbery kasi hindi po natin alam kung ano pong hawak nila. Although karamihan po sa security guard is allowed to use shotguns, arms, but hindi po natin basta-basta pwede galawin po agad yung robbery, lalo na po kung may civilian sa loob. Then speak only when spoken to. Tama po yun, sir.
Okay, so ibig sabihin, kailangan natin talaga silang sundin muna.
Apo sir, kung
Para hindi
pagkakataon po
sila-
sir, parang mag-ano ka po, magpa-follow ka po muna doon kung paano mo po siya mapapakalma or paano mo po
Okay.
madadala muna yung sitwasyon.
Alright,
Ganun
sige. Miss Loremas, please
So,
proceed.
yun po, do not try to stop or stall the robbers po.
Mhm.
And give them what they are after. So, most of the time naman, after lang nila is yung money.
Mhm.
So, yun na po. Huwag tayo magpapakabayani.
Oo.
At huwag nating subukan itago kung ano man yung habol nila. Kasi life is more important than the money.
Alright. So, tama ba yun, Mr. Colina?
Yes sir, yes sir.
Okay. So, yun nga. So, do not try to be a hero. Okay, kung gusto mo maging bayani, magpatayo ka ng rebulto, ganon. Okay, when it comes to this kind of situations, robberies or armed holdups, hayaan mo na, pera lang naman yan eh. Pera lang naman ang gusto nila eh. Or anything na hinihingi nila. Okay? So, kasi kahit sabihin mo na importante sa iyo yung cellphone mo, importante sa iyo yung mga alahas mo, yung wedding ring mo, your jewelries, di ba? O yung pera mo, importante sa iyo. Mas importante pa rin yung buhay mo. Okay? So, ibigay mo na sa kanila yan kasi makikitain mo pa yan eh. No? Kaysa naman mabad trip sa iyo yung offenders, no? Tapos barilin ka. Bawi na lang tayo next life. Ganun ba 'yon? 'Di ba wala namang ganun? Okay? So, next.
So, yun po yung dalawa po yung speak only when spoken to and do not look at the offenders.
Mhm.
So, wag na lang tayo magsalita if ever na hindi tayo kinakausap kasi anything can happen.
Mhm.
Next po. Future use sa authorities. So, magagamit ito ng mga authorities para makakuha sila ng informations na kailangan po para tukoy nila or hanapin yung mga robbers. So, first is appearances. So, yun po the way they look physically. So, kung ano po itsura nila, kung paano sila, for example, maglakad or tumindig. So, next is names they use. So, kung paano nila tawagin yung isa't isa. Sometimes po kasi, may code names din sila na ginagamit.
Mhm.
So, if ever na, useful din po to sa authorities.
Yeah. That's correct.
Next is accents po. Ma-identify naman po natin if ever na local or foreigners yung mga offenders po. Next
Or
is
kung local naman, they do sa parang tunog ano ba sila? Kung anong dialect yung ginagamit nila, kung Bicolano ba, kung
Opo, yes po.
Waray, Bisaya, mga ganon. Yung ganong
Opo.
yung sa accent ha. So ano ba sila? Tagalog ba sila? Bisaya ba sila? No? Unless English speakers yung mga yan. So we have to remember these things. Okay? What else?
next po is tattoos po.
Mhm.
So, important din po yun na if ever na there are visible tattoos po sa mga offenders, magamit din po yun na palatandaan
Correct.
sa kanila.
Huwag mong tatanungin,
And-
Kuya may tattoo ka ba? Walang ganun ha.
Parilin lang sa
Bariling ka agad nun. Loko ka.
Next
Bang, bang, bang. O, tapos. Next.
distinguishing features. So, yung pagkakaiba-iba po nila.
Mhm.
And if ever na yung behavior nila, pwede rin po nating tandaan. So, yun po.
Alright, so again, here are the things to remember whenever you encounter this type of robbery or armed holdups. Okay? First, appearance ng offenders. Okay? Usually, syempre, mga naka-bonnet, nakatakip yung mga mukha niyan. So, yung appearance nila, ang titingnan mo, yung tindig, kung gaano sila kataas, kung maliit ba, matipuno ba yung katawan, payat ba, ganon. Names they use when talking to each other. Okay? Usually they use code names. Pero minsan kapag nasa tension na yung situation, no? Minsan they tend to call their own names. No, so dapat very attentive kayo whenever they are saying anything. No, baka kasi masabi mo, "Oh, si Totoy Bibo." Oh, at least meron kayong natandaan or meron kayong narinig na siya tinawag na Totoy Bibo. Something like that, okay? Yan, accents, tattoos and distinguishing features. And then paano sila manamit? Okay? Kung ano yung kulay ng damit? Kung maluwag ba, fit ba, anong tatak ng damit or kung may print yung damit. Alright? So, and last is the vehicle they
Vehicles
use
po.
to make their getaway. Yung getaway vehicle nila. So, anong klaseng sasakyan? Sedan ba yan? Pick-up truck ba yan? Van ba yan? Then, yung plate number, kailangan nyo ding tingnan kung ano yung plate number, anong kulay ng kotse or ng sasakyan. Okay? So, those are the things to remember whenever you are experiencing this kind of scenarios. Okay, next.
Next po is after the robbery na. So,
Mhm.
we should call the police immediately and ask for an immediate response. So, next po is do not touch anything. So, paano iniwan ng offenders yung pangyari, ganun din dapat maaabutan ng authorities
Bakit kaya?
lugar na pangyarihan. If any evidences are found po or if ever na may hinawakan yung offenders, possible po na may fingerprints, no? Magagamit din po yun ng mga investigators.
What else, Mr. Colina? Bakit kaya hindi mo pwedeng hawakan yung
Maaari po kasi sir mag-lead to misleading informations.
Okay. Misleading information. Also, baka din kasi ang mangyari ay masangkot ka.
Yes
Tama
po,
ba?
possible po.
Possible,
Apo.
di ba?
Very high possible po yun, sir.
May possibility na masangkot ka doon sa crime na yun. If you touch anything na sa pinangyarihan or sa mga ginamit nila. Okay? Next.
Next po is to take a moment to write down anything na pinaniniwala ang makakatulong para mahanap yung mga offenders or robbers. So lahat ng importanteng detalye ilagay po and it should be detailed kung ano yung natatandaan dun sa
Kaya yung mga things to remember when it comes to experiencing this kind of situation, kumuha ka agad ng pwede mong sulatan, or kung hindi nakuha yung cellphone mo, i-type mo na agad sa cellphone mo kung ano yung mga natatandaan mo. Kasi sa init ng situation, no, pwede kasing makalimutan mo yung ibang mga details. So as soon as matapos yung robbery, no, take down notes mo na lahat ng mga pwedeng makatulong para ma-distinguish yung mga robbers. Okay?
Actually, sir, it's one of the SOP as a security po, sir.
Okay.
Bale, lahat po ng nangyayari, may kalimbawa man po, may nawala. Isusulat po talaga yun sa logbook or after event po.
So, lahat ng mga situations na pwedeng imbestigahan, yan, sa logbook. Kaya kung mapapansin nyo, yung mga security, may makapal silang logbook, no? So, Sa pagkakatanda ko nga, even yung mga lumalabas at saka pumapasok ng
Opo.
establishment, when it comes to employees ha, okay, hindi naman lahat nung ano, sa employees lang, okay? For example, magde-deliver, sino yung nag-deliver, anong truck, anong plate number, blah blah blah, yung mga ganong details. Tama ba, Mr. Kalina?
Yes, sir. Lahat po yun.
Okay.
Labas-pasok po.
Mhm. Okay, next.
Next is gather as witnesses as possible. So mas maraming witnesses, mas maganda po. Mas magiging solid and unambiguously yung informations na makuha ng authorities po.
Mhm.
And lastly, never discuss with anyone how much money was stolen or what offenses were committed. So as much as possible, the incident committed and other important informations should be controversial lang po. And only
Mhm.
designated person can speak to the media po.
Mhm. Okay, so ibig sabihin po niyan, hindi kayo "Uy, magkano yung nakuha sa'yo?" Ganyan. Hindi gano'n ha. May investigator na mag-aano niyan, na mangangalap ng information. May naka-designated person na magtatanong, "O, anong nangyari?" 'Di ba? "Magkano yung nakuha sa'yo?" Ganyan. Tapos isang person lang din ang magre-represent ng, for example, sa isang mall or sa isang bangko, no? So, yung investigator na appointed or nung head ng investigation na yon ang magsasabi or makikipag-usap lang sa media. Alright? Next po tayo. Any question? Clarification po? Wala? If our viewers has question, please feel free to send your comment your question dito sa ating chat box. Alright? Any other information po with regards to robberies and armed holdups? None? Shall we proceed? Reporters?
So yun po. I-add ko lang din po yung tama po ba sir na bago po isiwalat yung mga nangyari po doon sa isang company, if ever na may robbery na nangyari po, nagme-meeting po ba sila muna or ano? Kung ano lang po yung pwedeng isiwalat sa media.
That's why okay, sige. Let's ask first our guest na security natin.
Alin po ulit, sir? Alin po?
Ang question ni Loremas is that limited ba or lahat i-expose or yung detail nung nangyari?
Tama po yun, sir. Depends po yun sa authority whether kung ano po yung ilalabas mo sa media and
Mhm.
dapat lahat pong pangyayari is sasabihin mo po sa investigator.
Mhm.
Then sa media lang po kasi alam naman po natin ng media.
Okay.
Medyo delicates.
Okay.
So yun po kasi may mga sensitive informations po, no?
Mhm.
Yun pwedeng hindi pwedeng malaman ng iba.
Mhm.
So at the same time maaapektuhan din po yung mga investors.
Mhm. At saka,
Company, or
for example,
magiging worried sila sa mga investor nila po
pwede
na pera.
kasi nilang sabihin na, kalahati lang po yung nakuha nila. May kalahati pa pala. Pwede nating balikan yun. Parang ganon. Di ba? So, limited lang yung information na pwede nilang i-discuss or i-disclose sa media and to the public. Alright?
Okay, next po.
Okay.
Roman numeral number 4, natural calamities. So ito po mga responses dito and pagpe-prepare po dito is hindi lamang natin magagamit sa tour or trips. Pwede rin natin itong magamit sa ating workplace or sa bahay.
Mhm.
So if ever man. So may iba't ibang klase tayo ng natural calamities that may create an emergency situations. And in every calamity is significantly different. And of course, iba-iba din po yung magiging pagpe-prepare po natin ng responses.
Mhm.
First po is extreme weathers. For example, heavy rain. So here pwede po magkaroon ng flood. So we can prepare a list of I believe that we should prepare a list of emergency numbers po sa para sa natural calamities or sa emergencies na pwede mangyari. And first aid kits are important. So flashlights and extra batteries, foods, non-perishable foods and waters. So next po is excess high and unexpected low temperatures. So these are the prolonged unseasonal weather. So since Philippines, hindi naman nagsisnow or nagkakaroon ng negative degrees Celsius, ang very common lang sa atin is yung heat wave that lasts for several days to several weeks. So this may cause heat stroke. So madalas tinatamaan po nito yung mga matatanda, bata, may sakit, or overweight, and including na rin yung pets natin.
Okay.
So may times na humid pa po and sobrang init. So what we can do here is we can wear a loose, lightweight, and light colored clothing. So para maiwasan yung init sa katawan or mabawasan po. So we can also wear a hat that is wide enough to protect our faces po.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that's why it's not advisable to wear black or dark shirts when it's sunny and yung high yung temperature. No? Bakit kaya?
mas mainit po sa pakiramdam.
Bakit mainit sa pakiramdam? Mi po. Yes, sir.
Ano po sir, yung color po kasi na black sir is very reactive po siya sa init.
Okay.
Doble po yung init na mararamdaman kaysa sa kulay puti po.
Correct. So, yung black kasi, nag-absorb siya ng light. No? Kasi since black nga siya, no? So, hindi yan, yun nga, yung black absorbs light. No? Yung white naman repels the light. So hindi mas mainit sa pakiramdam. That's the scientific explanation beyond the reason why you shouldn't wear black or dark shirts when it's sunny or when it's hot outside. No? All right, next.
And we should drink plenty of fluids din po to
Yes.
stay hydrated.
Correct. Minimum of how many liters per day? Approximately. Anyone? Ilang litro dapat?
Two to three sir?
2 to 3, 12 glasses of water. Kahit 8 lang talaga. Basilio.
Pwede na yun sir para makaihi dire-diretso.
Okay, well, it's 8 glasses or approximately 2 liters. Okay, wag niyo namang ibombahin ng sarili niyo ng tubig. No, toxic din ng water kapag nasobrahan. No, baka magkaroon kayo ng kidney failure. Approximately 12 liters of water. Pero actually yung 2 liters pala, sorry. 2 liters of water. Pero sa 2 liters na yon, kasama na dyan yung kumare magko-coffee kayo, magju-juice kayo, okay? Kasama na yun sa fluids na dapat ina-absorb ng katawan ninyo. Okay? So kung wala naman, hindi ka naman kayo nagko-coffee, nagso-soft drinks or nagju-juice or any other fluids na iniinom and water lang, approximately 2 liters of water will do. Partner po sa Alphonse. Galing. Puro lang kayo ganyan eh. Puro kayo drawing, wala kayong pagkulay. Okay, next. Next.
And we can avoid din po as much as possible i-avoid natin yung high energy activities outdoors
When
during
it's
midday
hot,
po.
no?
Yes po. Midday heat. And we should also consider our pets' safety po.
That's correct.
Next is earthquake. So, isa po sa mga pwede natin gawin is we should make an earthquake emergency plan.
Mhm.
So, katulad nga po nung sabi nyo kanina, sir, alamin na yung mga fire exits or mga evacuation routes.
Mm.
So, next is we should have, again, list of emergency numbers, store food, flashlights with extra batteries. Whistle is important din po pagdating sa earthquakes eh. And we should secure hazards po. So, para maiwasan yung mga bagay na kung saan pwede tayong mapahamakan. This may reduce the injuries or deaths. We should also apply the drop, cover, and hold.
Mm.
Yung earthquake drill po.
Yeah. Drop,
So that-
cover, and hold. Tama ba?
Opo. So, yes po. So these simple steps might reduce the risk of injuries.
Okay.
And after an earthquake, the first thing to do after a major disaster is to check for injuries and damages that needs immediate attention. So kailangan na we know din po how to do a basic first aid procedures so that makapagbigay tayo ng tamang treatment para sa mga taong nangangailangan or sa sarili natin. Next is tsunami. First thing to do when tsunami hits is evacuate as soon as possible if ever you hear a tsunami warning or detect tsunami signs. Second is follow the authorities' instructions or evacuation route. And I think the most importantly na gawin is to get to the higher ground with yung mga kailangan na dalhin, yung mga essentials na kailangan. And lastly, avoid unstable structures and lalo na po yung mga down power lines kung saan dumadaan yung mga electricities. Next is bushfires and wildfires. So, kailangan din po natin ng evacuation plan for this. So, kailangan alamin yung mga fire exits and kung saan nakalagay yung mga first aids and fire extinguishers. So, importante nga talaga na alam natin yung mga listahan ng mga emergency hotlines. And if ever na sa loob ng establishment, importante din po na merong water sprinkler or smoke detector rather. So, dapat yun nga po, hindi nawawala yung fire extinguishers sa ating workplace and of course, first aids. Next po is smog and smoke haze. This is an intense air pollution po. So, para ma-prevent po natin, first, we can avoid this by less exposure po sa labas. So, that's the simplest way of dealing the haze. So, next po is stay indoor. Yun nga po. And keep the air clean with humidifier if ever na meron. And 95 po for full protection. So we should wear a mask to filter the dirty air po. So next is stay hydrated then. Next po, personal injury and illnesses. So there are a number of reasons kung bakit pwede tayong magkaroon ng medical emergencies. So isa na po dito yung resulta ng accidents like fall or trip, pagkakadulas, So here we might break an ankle, so pwede tayo mabali ng wrist or hip fractures. And next is emergency incident like an assault or physical harm and vehicle collision. So sa vehicle collision po, depende naman po yung injury na matatamo. It depends sa impact ng pagkakabangga po ng dalawang sasakyan. So next po is medical condition like heart attack or asthma attack, heat exposure. So in this kind of serious accidents, medical conditions and incidents, so kailangan na po talaga natin tumawag ng ambulance. So after na makatawag ng ambulance, the emergency operator will ask for the location. So in location, dapat naka-include dito yung business name, street address, crossing street if ever na meron, and the landmarks ng lugar na yun po. So we should be clear sa pag-state ng location, and as much as possible po, dapat solid yung ibibigay mo na address. So i-describe din natin kung ilan yung tao na involved po doon sa nangyari na incident. So next po is describe the condition of the victim po, and let them know if anyone else is providing assistance and what first aid have been rendered or yung na-provide na po at ginawa dun sa victims. Or if ever naman po na wala, pwede din po nating sabihin yun sa dispatcher po. Kasi if ever na wala naman po, magbibigay sila ng instructions po. So they may ask you to administer or apply first aid, and they will talk you through what to do po. So they are also trained para magbigay ng medical advice over the telephone to assist with the patient's needs until makarating po yung ambulance. So yun po. Next reporter po. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Miss or Mister? Sorry. How should I address you?
Kahit ano po.
Kahit ano, ako na bahala.
Opo. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. Okay, next reporter po tayo.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
For the number 6 of letter C, emergency response procedure, loss of water and food. So water and food are the basic necessities. The Philippines has 91% of the country's estimated 100.7 million population have access to at least basic water as services according to UNICEF. So we all know that the Philippines is tropical country. So, hindi po natin papagkakaila na isang Pilipinas sa marami mag-consume ng tubig, lalo na sa panahon ng tag-init or sa summer season. We all know the fact that the water and food are the basic necessities. Sa bahay na lang po kapag nawalan po tayo ng tubig, ay napakahirap na po. And lalo, at pag nagkulang po tayo ng supplies, and what more pa po kapag nagtutour tayo or while we are traveling. Kapag nagkulang po yung supplies natin. So, here are the objectives that after the discussion ay malalaman natin yung sagot. So, what are the things to do when running out of water and food? Who should we call for help in case there is an emergency situation in terms of loss of water and food? So, sir, dagdag ko lang po na hindi lang naman po sa mga threats and other accident pwede mag-occur ang emergency situation. It could be natural disasters, calamities, and other disaster.
That's correct.
And yes po. And also sir, since ang topic ko po talks about loss of water, so definitely sa natural disaster and other disasters po ako magpo-focus. So next slide po. So, the location and timing of the loss will determine the action to take. Explain situation to the group number. Plan an action to address situation, request their assistance in handling the situation. So, dahil nasa emergency situation tayo, kailangan natin gumawa ng plano regarding sa nasabing emergency situation. For example, may sunog. So, ano ba ang plano ang dapat natin gawin? First of all, kailangan lumabas lahat ng tao. Then, usually, nagbabayanihan po tayo, di ba? Like, nagpapasahan po tayo ng tubig. Then after that, syempre need natin tumawag or mag-request ng assistance. Pag may sunog ay dapat ng assistance. Of course, sa fire station na every barangay, cities ay meron. Next ay, secure any remaining supplies to protect what is left from the future loss. Kung ano yung natira na lang, tipirin natin kasi kapag may future loss, madali natin masusolusyonan kung may mga sapat na supply like food and water. Next po. Ration food and water according to reserved available and in accordance with expected time of obtaining more supplies. So like po doon sa secure any remaining supplies, yung pagrasyon po ng pagkain at tubig ay dapat nakadepende sa remaining supplies at dapat nakadepende din sa target na oras natin. So, anong oras po ba dapat natin ibigay yung pagkain at gaano kadalas natin pwedeng pakainin yung ating mga tao. So, next is ask for help. Dahil umaharap tayo sa isang emergency situation, kailangan natin tulong from local authorities. Their assistance is really helpful. Kanino po ba dapat tayo humingi na assistance at tulong? So later on, madidiscuss din po natin yan. Next is seek local option for sourcing basic necessities and make necessary purchases using cash or credit. So since we are running out of stocks, kailangan natin bumili ng basic necessities such as water and food from local groceries using our cash or credit card. Next slide po. Sir, masyado po ba ako mabilis?
Well, I can understand you. Sakto lang. Sige lang.
Okay, sir. Thank you po. So, advise head office of situation and seek their advice. So, kunin natin yung panig nila para maayos yung situation na kinakaharap sa kasalukuyan. Ano bang dapat gawin? Ano bang dapat unahin? So, lahat ng problema ay dapat ipaalam sa head office para inform sila sa mga nangyayari. Next is request them to send supplies. Since we are running out of water and food at iilan na lang yung natitirang supplies, kailangan natin humingi ng karagdagang supplies sa kanila by contacting and informing them. Next po ay request as arrangement be made to obtain necessities from local suppliers. So dahil nga po nasa emergency situation tayo, kailangan natin isaayos yung mga supplies para matugunan natin yung mga iba pang pangangailangan. At kung may mga kulang pa ay pwede tayong bumili o humingi ng tulong from local suppliers. Next is adjust itinerary to accommodate situation. So dahil nga po tayo ay may plano na for the future, makakatulong ito para sa mga emergency situation tulad nito. Pero kailangan din i-adjust yung plano ngayon base na rin kung gaano kalala yung situation na yon. For example, sir, ito bang lugar na ito ay sakto sa bilang ng mga tao? So kung hindi, maghahanap tayong alternatives para matugunan yung situation na iyon at para sa mga i-accommodate natin. So we need to check the place if safe ba sila doon at kung ilan ang kayang i-accommodate ng place na iyon. So next is control release issues and use remaining food and water. So dahil nga po hindi sapat yung supplies natin, dapat kontrolin natin yung paglabas ng supplies. Dapat po ay mabigyan ng lahat. Siyempre, gagawa tayo ng list at bibilangin natin yung and supplies, then i-distribute natin bilang sa bilang ng mga tao. So dapat wala pong labis at wala ding kulang. Sa paglabas naman po ng issue, ay dapat sa mga related people lang po mababanggit yung emergency situation na yun. And gumamit or gamitin lang yung natitirang supplies o yung pagkain at tubig sa tama. Siyempre, hindi po natin mapagkakailan ng may mga tao po talagang hindi kaya magtipid ng pagkain. Pero since we are in a situation wherein lack or scarcity of food and water, we should and must use remaining food and water well. Hindi lang po yung isang tao ang magugutom dun sa specific na situation na yun. Next is monitor remaining supplies level and be prepared to reallocate ration limits. So gaya po doon sa control release issues and use remaining food and water, we must monitor the remaining supplies level, especially kung alam natin na kukulangin yung stock natin. And if hindi naman po talaga sapat yung mga necessities natin, we need to reallocate it. So, next slide po. So, for the letter D, assistance to facilitate response to emergency situations from relevant personnel. So employees are expected to seek assistance from other when dealing with emergency situation. How to seek assistance in an emergency? Assistance can be obtained using whatever facilities or system and technology are available. So since we are in an emergency situation, dapat alerto po tayo. Kung ano po yung available na facility na pwede natin hingin ng tulong, ay doon po tayo lalapit. So, for example po, sa pagtutur po natin yung aksidente, Siyempre po hindi and then may dumaan pong mga police, like for example, police. Siyempre hindi po natin kailangan, hindi mo hindi kailangan, pero yung buhay po ng pasyente ay mahalaga. So, kailangan natin idalhin na yung pasyente dun sa hospital. So, kailangan po ba natin hintayin yung ambulance? I can say no po. Kasi yung buhay nga po ng pasyente ay mahalaga. So, pwede natin isabay yung pasyente sa police para madala na po. Then, pwede naman po tayong tumawag dun sa ambulance for the first aid po.
Okay.
Yes po. Next slide po. This may be using personal cell phone or one belonging to a tour group member or member of the public to make a call and send text message. So since nasa tour tayo at may emergency na nangyari, definitely the first thing that you should do is to make a call and send text message para ma-inform yung mga kasama natin sa tour. We should inform them sa kung anong nangyayari, okay lang ba sila, nasan sila, and we have to tell them to stay calm and go to the safest place. Next is using a landline phone. So we all know that the landline phone has an unlimited load. So we can call whatever networks they have. Sa pagkakaalam ko po kasi na mas malakas po ang service ng landline kaysa sa service po ng cellphone. One of the problem din po kasi kapag nasa emergency situation tayo ay yung madalas na nawawalan po ng signal or service yung ating cellphone. So, having a landline phone while we are traveling is necessary. Next is using an emergency telephone. So in case of emergency, may telephone tayong magagamit. Usually and more often, makikita natin itong emergency telephone na ito sa mga buildings, company, and so on and so forth. Next is using a portable radio or radio in a tour vehicle. So, syempre kapag tayo lalabas sa ating mga bahay at mag-travel tayo, mahalaga na meron tayong radio sa ating mga sasakyan para alam natin kung may paparating na bagyo or other disasters or unwanted event or situation. So, next is activating an alarm. Ang alarm lang naman po ang nakakapag-inform sa atin na may emergency nangyayari. So, dapat laging gumagana ito dahil ito yung way para ipahatid sa atin na may emergency mangyayari. And we can see those emergency alarms everywhere we go. So, especially sa loob ng building. So, next slide po. So, activating an emergency beacon, locator beacon, or disaster survival beacon. What is the use of emergency or locator beacon? It is for the emergency purposes in case there is an emergency. Madali natin mapupuntahan yung area kung saan nandun ang ating piligtas. And rescuers are the often user of locator beacon or personal locator beacon, in short, PLB. So how does an emergency locator beacon work? So when it hears a signal, it notifies the nearest ground station. So next po ay speaking assistance might calling. So sir, is it okay if I will also give hotlines po?
Sure. Okay lang. Go.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So I will give department that present here in the Philippines. So first is mali. So dito muna po pala tayo sa speaking with members of the public and asking them to call local authorities. So sino po ba yung mga pwede nating tawagan sa local authorities? Ito po yung mga barangay, municipal hall, and other organization na responsible sa ganitong situation. Or baka may present person from the public na may alam na sa current situation na meron kayo. Like po dun sa example ni Mr. Kulina po, saka ni Ayla po. So, asking them to borrow their phone asking for local contact numbers and for contact information. Kailangan po natin tawagan yung dapat nating tawagan. Siyempre, kailangan natin yung numbers ng tour guide, tour operators, and dapat yung mga numbers po nila ay active. So, going to relevant website and also sending an email. So, if hindi available yung number na hihingiin nyo from them, you can visit their website or website from the other department na in charge kapag may emergency tulad sa tour. So, send an email to them so that they are all aware sa kung ano nangyayari at alam din nila yung mga kailangan natin at kailangan natin ng agarang tulong from them. So, next slide po. So, ito nga po yung binabanggit ko kanina, seeking assistance by calling. First is fire department. So, in case na may sunog. So, what departments are present here in the Philippines? Yung Bureau of Fire Protection po. And their hotline is 02-426-0219. Next, ambulance. From different cities and barangays. Usually, pag may emergency at kailangan isugod ang pasyente agad sa ospital, pwedeng tumawag ng ambulance kahit saan pang barangay nakalocate kung hindi available yung ambulance sa inyong lugar. So, sir, I have a question po.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, di ba po, usually naman po nangyayari na kapag hindi po available yung ambulance, is pwede po tayong tumawag ng ambulance from other location po or place?
When you say ambulance, is it from the hospital or from the barangay?
Both po, sir.
Both. Well, ang standard kasi is that depends on the emergency. If it's personal, no, you call the hospital. Kapag walang hospital, you ask for the barangay.
Okay, sir.
Pag naman siya, for example, sunog, okay, the Bureau of Fire ang tatawagan mo. And then kapag walang sumasagot or tagal yung response, you ask help from the barangay also. And then kung wala naman na as in kung walang response or matagal yung response, kung wala kang access to the Bureau of Fire, you go to the nearest authority, which is the barangay.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you po.
Okay.
So next is police. Kapag may emergency situation like may nakawan, saksakan, or etc. So ano po bang present department na meron dito sa Pilipinas? Of course, yung Philippine National Police po. And their hotlines is 117. Next is civil defense. So, magtatanong po ako from our guest po. Do you have any idea what the civil defense mean? Ano yung kanilang ginagawa and role sa pag-aksyon ng emergency situation?
Can I try po?
Yes po.
Sa tingin ko po, ang ginagawa or role nila sa pag-aksyon sa emergency situation po, sila po yung nag-organize or nagpo-protect sa mga panganib po tulad ng bagyo and other disaster risk po. Natural disaster po. And sila din po ang nagpo-provide ng pangangailangan ng tao tulad ng pagkain po and yung evacuation center po.
Okay, so that's correct po. So, ang civil defense, since nagkakaroon ng emergency situation sa inyong pagtutur, and that is inevitable, isa sa mga mapupuntahan natin para hingian ng assistance ay itong civil defense. Sila ay may relation sa disaster. And also, if ever man na may natural disaster na nangyari sa inyong lugar, o sa pagtutur, sila po ay ating malalapitan. So, the department that present here in the Philippines is Office of Civil Defense or Department of National Defense. And their hotline is 02-911-5061 or 911-1406. So, example po nito yung may nangyari po sa Taal Volcano eruption. So isa sila sa tumulong mag-rebuild ng nasirang bahay at ari-arian sa Batangas. So that is their role and purposes. So for another question po, which is dun po sa ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance po. So for you or for your own perception, what does ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance do?
Pwede pa try din po ulit.
Apa.
Sa tingin ko po, sila po yung nagpa-facilitate and nag-cooperate and ordination among the parties po and with the relevant United Nations and international organization in promoting regional collaboration in disaster management and emergency response po.
So that is correct din po. So ang layunin ng AHA Center or ASEAN Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance ay mapadali yung kooperasyon o koordinasyon sa partido. Since sa Pilipinas ay kabilang sa UN and ang UN ay isa sa mga tumutulong sa bansa. Ang AHA ay tumutulong sa disaster management and emergency response. Sila ay nagbibigay ng assistance sa mga taong nawala ng bahay or biktima ng natural disaster. Ang AHA are the one who give financial assistance for those victim of natural disaster and other emergency situation that occurred to that particular place. So from the word itself, humanitarian assistance, so they give assistance for those people na nasaktan, nasugatan, or namatayan. So, for the next po is a nominated service provider, local security company, and head office of nominated 24/7 number dedicated those on tour. So lahat ng nabanggit dito ay pwede nating hingian ng tulong. So in case na hindi available yung mga iba nating nahingian ng tulong. So since we are in a tour and there's an emergency that happened, we must call the following people. So the head office of the specific company, the service provider, the local security company, and the active service number of that head office. So that may number tayo nila para in case of emergency. So for the next reporter po, he will discuss the record action undertaken in response to emergency situation. So Mr. Robles, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bernardo. Very, very good. Okay, Mr. Robles, please.
Record action undertaken in response to emergency situation. Where there has been a need to respond to an emergency situation, it is a standard practice to complete nominated documentation to record the event and the action taken. Ito po yung mga kailangan gawin or respond. Basically po, ang may topic is about reporting in response to emergency situation, kung ano yung mga ginawa nyo or paano kayo nag-respond in the situation, and these are the reports may be needed to. Next slide po. Document the event in case there is a legal action. Sa pagkakaintindi ko po is, example po dito ay CCTV. CCTV po na nakapwesto sa working area na sakop ang iba't ibang pwesto o lugar that can be saved and used as an information in case of any situation. Second example po is who witnessed the action, staff or guest in the scene area. Pareho po pwedeng gumawa ng documentation sa pangyayari either in video, written, or spoken report. This information will become helpful in case of emergency situation. Next is support the insurance claim. that needed for validity to approve the claim then pay out to the insured company. Kailangan lang po nila na magbigay ng legal or valid information sa kung ano yung nangyari dahil hindi naman po basta-basta maglalabas ang insurance company at mag-iimbestiga po sila. Next is learn from incident. I'm not sure po pero para sa meaning ng EMP is ay yung emergency management plan. So training and existing EMP can be changed on the basis of actual events. All fires, death, and property damage are normally reported for insurance purposes, and most, if not all, insurance claims will require some supporting documentation. Learn from the incident dahil po your training is only a basis for the actual situation dahil hindi naman lahat is sasagutin ng insurance except for natural events like fires, earthquake that can be damage the properties, and insurance claims will require some supporting documentation like ng example ko po kanina. And next slide po. Rinig pa po ba ako, sir?
Yes, narinig ka namin.
Okay po. Reporting methods. General consideration reporting or answer question to the best of personal knowledge and ability. Okay po. Try to avoid supposition or your theory, speculation, and stick to the facts. Verbal reports enable quicker follow-up to occur. To simplify, you need to set a proof, something that will prove what you say. And inspections of the site are often required but may not be possible or not enough in some situation of the report and investigation. Initial verbal reports may require more formal, more detailed follow-up written reports. Examine details, not opinions, and something specifically information. Next po. Written reports. People involved, names and numbers, or position like if staff member or guest that must be written specifically, and cause of the emergency, detailed time and date, even the small piece of information including the sequence of events and results of the incident. Roles played by individual staff as part of the response. Every act of the staff member, even if it is act who called the police, the fire department, and so on. Roles played by tour group members and other members of public as part of the response. And the people who respond in the incident, example of the group of BF people and the other public groups of tourists. Maybe. Details of use relevant AMPS. or emergency management plans, details of procedures on how the management measures to provide the safety of personnel and if possible the property and the facilities, and including pa din po on how they implement steps to eliminate the problems such as reporting to the local police and fire department, and the effectiveness of the response, including the emergency management plan and other actions. And last, suggestions for improvements to the emergency management plan based on experience from the event, and these reports should be prepared. Yun lang po. Thank you po.
Recap lang natin yung last slide. Okay? So, yan, very important yan na merong written reports when it comes or whenever there is an emergency or something happen. Okay? So, sino-sino yung mga involved, cause of the emergency, yan, kung sino ba yung involved, ano yung naging role niya, siya ba yung victim, siya ba yung suspect, or siya yung pa-victim, ang ganon. Alright, roles played by the tour group members and other members of the public as part of the response, the details of use of relevant EMPs. Ano na nga ulit yung EMPs?
Emergency management plans po.
Sorry?
Emergency management plans po.
Okay, emergency management plans. Okay? So tulad ng mga diniscuss natin kanina, so may mga different emergency management plans depends on the emergency na nag-exist or nag-occur. Okay? Then the effectiveness of the response, kung mabilis ba siyang natugunan, gaano katagal yung emergency nag-exist, no? And then gaano siya what do you call this? Yung efficiency ng pag-response doon sa emergency na yon, and then suggestions for improvements of the EMPs based on on experience from the event. So ito po yung mga kailangan nating i-prepare. Alright, any other information? Additional information from the group? Wala? Sure?
Wala na po.
Alright, so I created a poll sa ating sa ating live. So, ayan po. So, based on your report, ito po yung grades na kukunin ko from their response. Okay? Kumbaga, feedback lang naman lang. So, I will start to create this poll for the effectiveness or the presentation na ginawa ng mga reporters po. Okay? So, before we well, actually, pwede. You can rate yourselves. Sige, you can visit the live and then rate yourselves. Okay? So, susulat ko lang po yung rate. So, we have 32 votes, 34, and 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, wait lang, one moment. Okay, so I will end the poll. So, 53, and 38, and 9. Alright, so, alright. Okay, so if you don't have any question, sige, let's proceed to the next topic para makover natin yung midterm para mas mahaba yung time nyo for review. Alright? And so please, Miss Fuyunan. All right. And thank you guys. Thank you, Miss Rase, and the rest of the group, and most especially to our guests nag-participate sa ating discussion. Thank you so much and see you. You have guys group Miss Rase, yung group niyo po.
Yes po, sir.
Kailangan niyo pong mag-fill out and makinig po doon sa susunod nating sa susunod nating discussion. Alright, so
Okay
I will
po.
be posting or sharing the link for our next video presentation or live po. Alright, so thank you very much again. You did a very good job of explaining the responses of for discussing the emergency situations. Thank you very much once again and see you later.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po.
Thank you po.
Sir.